Hey VC, Tony here. Tony's LPs are us. You can see the Elvis lights on, so we are recording. This will be published in a few hours today. This little segment is about all this, and World War II soundtrack, which was a Lou Reisner production, contained various Beatles songs by guest artists, also backed by the London Symphony Orchestra at the time. And the reason I'm doing this little review, comment on this, my impressions of this is a forgotten Beatle record. This came out in 1976, and this kind of went to the wayside really fast. And I'll go over the reasons why and my impressions. But the reason I'm doing this today is I did recently a little video on another infamous Beatle music soundtrack called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the movie. And that starred the Bee Gees, Peter Frampton, Steve Martin, a bunch of other people. Billy Preston was in it, a bunch of stars at the time. That record plummeted. It actually sold millions of copies, but it also had a platinum send back to the distributors, which was RSO at the time. And they destroyed a lot of those, and a lot of them became cutouts. But when I did that segment, a lot of you watchers and viewers commented about this record because this is similar. Another movie with Beatle music, not done by the Beatles, but done by guest artists who were big at the time. Now, the interesting point is a lot of these artists are still considered huge. Some of them, they just, rode off into the sunset. But the majority of them are still relevant in today's world, today's music world. And I'll go over that in a second. But I want to give you a little history of the movie first, and then we'll go into the soundtrack. Now I'm just going to read over my notes. I'll hold this up while I read. 20th Century Records president Russ Regan had a dream one night. The music of the Beatles accompanied scenes from World War II. For most of us, it would have remained a dream. But if one is the president of 20th Century Fox Records, owned by Fox at the time, it could become a reality or a nightmare. He gives this interview to a magazine. This is Russ Regan. I dreamt it, actually wrote it all down. I woke up in the middle of the night, wrote those things down, and we made a sort of a documentary movie about World War II with the Beatles music. I have two questions, though. What the hell was Mr. Regan smoking before he went to sleep and had that dream? And why would this ever get made? The resulting film, All This in World War II, became an 80-plus minute film that is pointless, amateurish, and torturous to watch, inglorious black and white. And yes, its only redeeming quality to some extent was its music, Beatle music, that is. Somehow this picture was greenlighted. How and why, we are never going to know. We may find out who shot JFK before we find out how this movie ever got made. Russ Regan, who had the dream, was a big deal at the time. He worked as a VP at Motown, then became president of Uni Records, UNI, signed Elton John, Neil Diamond, and then became president of 20th Century, who was owned by Fox at the time. He was instrumental in getting Barry White, Olivia Newton-John onto that label. Like I said, it was a big deal. It was very successful. He supervised the soundtrack from the movie This Is Spinal Tap, Endless Love, Chorus Line, and was music supervisor of 4 Academy Award-winning songs: Flashdance, the Poseidon Adventure theme, Chariots of Fire, and the Towering Inferno theme. So what happened? We won't know. So it's just bizarre that this movie got made. And I'm going to go over what was weird about this movie. What it is, it's using footage from World War II newsreels, old Fox war movies, documentary footage with no dialogue for the most part, and overdubbed with Beatle music. And here's the songs And I'll talk about these songs in a minute. I'll actually show you the inside of this pretty lavish record, package record at the time. The film was released on November 11, 1976. The soundtrack on October 25th, 76. That was a good move, releasing the record before the movie, because after the film was released, record sales plummeted. Once again, the anticipation of having anything Beatle after the Beatles broke up in 69-70, this was the way to go. The soundtrack was lavishly packaged in a hard shell containing 2 LPs in a gatefold jacket with a beautifully illustrated 30-page booklet that contained stills of the film done as paintings illustrated with the artist who sang the song and with lyrics for each song next to it. So it was pretty cool. The movie, like I said, was dismal. No one liked it. It was pulled from theaters about 2 weeks after its premiere and has never seen the light of day officially in any home media format, be it VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, none, zero. You could get clips of it on YouTube. I looked it up on Amazon, and Amazon, it said it was playing on Amazon, but when I went to Amazon, all pages that I could find on the internet indicated that the movie is not available in your area. So what they've done is 20th Century basically buried this film. This was a bizarre movie. And I'm going to go over some of the bizarre aspects of it when I get to the songs. So that's just a little background of the movie. One good thing about this, it had Peter Gabriel, and I believe it was Peter Gabriel's first solo debut song, and he did Strawberry Fields Forever. So there's some cool stuff on this soundtrack. Okay, let's go to the soundtrack before I ramble on too much. Might be World War III by then. So here's the back. Like I said, it's a hard shell. Slides out very easily. Very well done in those days. Here we have the gatefold inner. And there's the booklet, which I'll show. And here is the gatefold containing both records. And it's got a weird concoction of World War II army person with a guitar, as you can see it. This was a pointless movie. I'm going to go over what the critics say, but it's hard to watch. The songs, the Beatles songs, do not fit over the footage for the most part at all. So I'll go over some of that in a minute. Just want to show the label of one of the records. They're identical. Here's a little giveaway for merchandise. This was a OG first press. And here you have a beautiful girl in a World War II logo, t-shirts, all this and t-shirts too. All this in World War II movie and record jacket graphic. The record was on the shirt was only $4.50 plus shipping and handling. It had iron-on transfer, and you can mail away for that. Here's 20th Century Fox inner sleeve, and there's the actual. Both records are the same, so I will show you this. It just says, various artists, the original soundtrack from the 20th Century Fox film, all this in World War II, 1976. The London Symphony Orchestra and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, arranged by Will Malone and conducted by Henry Rabovich. All songs composed by Lennon and McCartney. There were no George Harrison tunes on this one, unfortunately. Here Comes the Sun would have fit maybe at the end of the war, but at the end we got the end. Here's the booklet. And the record was done at Zentz Mastering, so it's well mastered. The record sounds good. The movie is just terrible. It's a 30-page booklet. Has a die cut there. Right there. We have this. page. We have credits here. Just show you that. You can see that there. Just want to see it, make sure you could see some of this. And you can see here on the margins, it has the song lyrics, it has underneath who sang it, and a still from the scene that the movie had the song overdubbed. So a really nice booklet, 30 pages or so, plus the cover. If you're a Beatle collector, I would suggest you pick this up. It has Beatle tunes on it. I'm just going to try to illustrate how they use these songs over the film footage. The film footage, majority of it was in black and white. There's a few color-tinted segments. The movie's about an hour and a half. It's really torturous to watch. None of the music fits, in my opinion. It's kind of stupid. It's almost insulting, as one critic wrote. Let me see. A critic from the LA Times. Let me just see here. Well, he wrote that, I'm trying to find it here, but he wrote that it was insulting, and it kind of is insulting if you see it in the horrors of World War II, and you've got these Beatles songs over like Golden Slumbers and She's Leaving Home and We Can Work It Out. Just bizarre. Just bizarre. Here we go. The critic, LA Times critic, called it a tasteless, even offensive attempt to get some more mileage out of some Beatles standards and some wartime Fox movie footage. It looked that way to me, too. And originally, this is another fun fact, originally the producers intended to use original Beatle recordings over the film, but then thought more money in a soundtrack for them if they recorded it with guest stars could be more profitable. So always follow the money. By the way, the soundtrack generated a lot more money than the movie. Remember, the movie was pulled after about 2 weeks or so and never to be seen again. It showed up in a few music fests. I think it was on in England and the BBC played it, but it doesn't even have a cult following at this point. I'm hoping this little video will at least get you to listen to the soundtrack, and maybe you can find clips of it on YouTube and maybe on Amazon in your neck of the woods. So I'm just going to go over the film and how they superimposed certain songs. But first I'm going to go over the song titles and let you know who's on who did what. Side 1 was Magical Mystery Tour. That was Ambrosia. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds with Elton John. And I believe this version of Elton John's Lucy in the Sky was pre-recorded before this movie, because some of the notes I read indicated that John was playing guitar and singing backup. So that was the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds single that Elton put out, which is a great tune. Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, the Bee Gees. I Am the Walrus, Leo Sayer. She's Leaving Home, Brian Ferry, which was cool. Lovely Rita by Roy Wood, very rare. When I'm 64 by Keith Moon. So there's some really eclectic artists on this, and eclectic in the sense that they're doing Beatle tunes, and we don't really hear much of Keith Moon ever singing. Brian Ferry, of course, became huge. Get Back, side 2 on the record is Rod Stewart. Let It Be Again, Leo Sayer. Yesterday by David Essex. David Essex was huge, if you remember back in the day. With a Little Help from My Friends and Nowhere Man is Jeff Lynne from ELO. Lindsay DePaul does Because. She came in through the bathroom windows, the Bee Gees. Michelle, Richard Concante, don't know who he is. We Can Work It Out by the Four Seasons. That's a rarity. It's really cool. The Fool on the Hill, Helen Reddy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight, or should I say lowlight, where some of this music was over the film. And you'll get the idea of what I mean, that it was kind of in bad taste. Hey Jude by the Brothers Johnson. If you remember, the Brothers Johnson were a funk duo that had a song, I believe, probably on 20th Century, I guess, because a lot of these artists, I think, have some connection to either Rush Regan or Lou Reisner, or else they wouldn't be on this soundtrack. Polythene Pan was Roy Wood again. Sun King was by the Bee Gees. Getting Better, Status Quo. Frankie Lane did Maxwell Silver Hammer. The Long and Winding Road, again, Leo Sayer. Help by Henry Gross. It's kind of obscure. A great one is Strawberry Fields Forever, like I said, Peter Gabriel. This is a nice one. A Day in the Life, Frankie Valli of the Four Seasons, who, by the way, is at 90 plus, is still touring and still going strong. A friend of mine, seen him a few times during the last couple of years, and said that the shows are fantastic. Come Together by the late Tina Turner. You Never Give Me Your Money, Will Malone and Lou Reisner, who actually Will conducted the orchestra. And The End by the London Symphony Orchestra. And here's the back. Here's the book again. Like I said, 30 pages or so. Really nice, heavy paper. Beautiful gatefold. Gatefold has the tracks and who does the tracks. So here's just some of the lowlights. I just made a few notes. Just a few, but they're kind of highlights, but lowlights. Fool on the Hill by Helen Reddy. Now this was dubbed over Adolf Hitler at his Alp Berchtesgaden mountaintop Berghof retreat. And that's in really poor taste. And if you remember all those scenes of Hitler with little children who were being groomed for Nazism, it's huge outside veranda, and there's a lot of film of that. So they used some of that film. I think it's, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, Berchtesgaden Mountain Retreat. So that's it. But they overdubbed Fool on the Hill by Helen Reddy. Now, if you listen to some of the lyrics, some of it fits, but a lot of it doesn't. And some of those songs were kind of chopped up. They weren't in the full release as they are in the soundtrack for time reasons. Sun King by the Bee Gees, I get this, was over the Japanese bombers flying in formation to Pearl Harbor. Now, Sun King is, I guess, because the Japanese flag was the sun. Go figure. I Am the Walrus by Leo Sayer was actually over some of the bombings of Pearl Harbor, where the aircraft carriers and the harbor was being bombed. And you've seen our sailors jumping off. A lot of that footage was taken from movies, but really in bad taste. And I Am the Walrus, Ooga Looga Loo. Now, I don't know what veterans thought of this at the time. I couldn't find anything written on that perspective. Couldn't find what the Beatles thought of this at the time. Couldn't find anything on the internet. I guess you have to go into books and magazines at the time. But this was 76. So a lot of veterans were in their maybe 40s and 50s. So the majority of World War II veterans, I believe, were still alive and were probably big Beatle fans. So who knows? Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by Elton John was over the U.S. dropping death bombs over its enemies, be it in Germany or Japan. Don't really know. Let me see what else here. Oh yeah, during they showed, we had a lot of the women were left to man the factories. and a lot of women went into the war. So it had She's Leaving Home dubbed over that by Brian Ferry. Now that's bizarre. She's leaving home after living alone for so many years. What does that have to do with World War II? Okay. Golden Slumbers is even worse. That's by the Bee Gees. And that's dubbed over either newsreel footage or movie footage. It's all in black and white. A lot of it looks authentic. Of Brits sleeping in its underground during the German Blitzkriegers when they bombed London. The Blitzkriegs, when they bombed London, and these bursts, like to rattle the occupants, to rattle the Brits. It did also show African American military men in formations marching back and forth to different songs. It showed Japanese Americans being rounded up, their businesses closed in California, in Little Japan, Little Tokyo, being rounded up into deferment camps. So it had a lot of weird stuff. Didn't really go into the atomic bomb that bombed Japan. It just showed at the end a big flash with a mushroom, and then the end comes on, the song "The End" by the orchestra, like I said. So, what can I say? The music isn't bad. It's a lot better than the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, but still, this dream turned into a nightmare. How it ever got made is beyond me. I know they made a lot more money with the soundtrack. The movie had to lose money, but it probably didn't cost a lot because all they did was use movie footage that they had in the Fox vaults. There was also clips of Jimmy Stewart being inducted, different movie stars being inducted, showed clips of movies. A lot of it had some humor element to it, which didn't fit. It was just bad. So the soundtrack's not bad. I would pick it up if you were a Beatle completist. If you listen to it on YouTube, these are just my impressions of the film, but you'll see those same kind of impressions scattered in some of the reviews over the internet. And I could have even got more highlights, but I'll let you be the judge. So here's the jacket. Once again, some cool stuff. A Day in the Life, Frankie Valli, Peter Gabriel, Jeff Lynne, some David Essex, Helen Reddy doing The Fool on the Hill. So let me know what you think. If you get to finish this video, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have this. And what do you think about the soundtrack? Because, like I said, soundtrack's not bad. Movie's very bad. Kind of a bad mix. Who would have even dreamt that? Like I said, what was he smoking? What was Russ smoking at the time? So keep rocking. If you haven't subbed, please sub. We really appreciate it. It really helps us out. So all this in World War II, the Beatles. Check it out. Ciao.